Hello everybody, Dick Press here, threading the needle live. But before I get into threading the needle live, take a look. These are my Murray's Toggery Nantucket Reds. And they're not just Murray's Toggery Nantucket Reds, they're Murray's Toggery with liaison alliance with J Press. Murray's Toggery are brothers in arms together. And I also have my India Madras J Press sport jacket, my J Press Ancient Matter tie, my J Press white Oxford button-down shirt, the famous one, and even an Ancient Matter kerchief. Now, let's get down to real business. The reason we're here today. Can you see that? This is the introduction that we're showing for my book, Threading the Needle. And in the book, you see that picture? That is a picture of yours truly with the scholar and eminence grise of menswear and fashion, G. Bruce Boyer. Bruce, introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, thank you, Richard. My name is G. Bruce Boyer. I'm a dear friend of Richard's, an admirer, a fan. We met when we were doing an exhibition at FIT called Ivy Style.
Fashion Institute of Technology.
Fashion Institute of Technology. And we've been friends ever since. And I'm otherwise an writer, fashion writer and author. I've done a couple of books on men's fashion and a couple of exhibitions at the Fashion Institute of Technology. And that's about it, I think, Richard.
Okay, now our director has a couple of questions for us. Go to it.
Why do you think Ivy style is enduring?
I think Ivy style is enduring. I'd be interested in Bruce's comment on it, but I think it's enduring because it represents good taste. Good taste has been out the window in America for a long time. J Press has stuck to good taste, excellent tailoring, fair prices, and an investment quality merchandise which is intergenerational. My son and grandson wear J Press clothes, and my son wears my his grandfather's J Press clothes, and they last for years. They're never outdated. Bruce, what do you think?
Well, I think that's, you mentioned a couple of things that I wanted to just elaborate on slightly. One is that Ivy League clothing started out as being important for the Eastern establishment elite.
Yeah.
And my sense had always been that those people, the reason that they had money was because they were very careful with it. And my point is that I think it's still true today that Ivy League clothing has always been good value for money. You know, you weren't paying for gimmicks, you weren't paying for a designer's name, you weren't paying for all sorts of things like that. You were paying for the clothing. And the label simply represented clothing whose quality you could trust. So that was one thing. The second thing that occurred to me was, you know, Ivy League clothing, pretty much as we know it today, has been around for over 100 years without changing that much. So it has this legend and tradition and has always worked well. You know, if something's been around for a century or more, it obviously has to work or we get rid of it. And I think it's a kind of clothing that works well. You know, it mixes formality with casualness. I think Ivy League American clothing was the first casual clothing in a sense.
Could we call it American style?
American style.
Okay.
American style.
Touché.
And it simply works well. And the third thing that occurs to me is it's clothing that's flattering on anybody. There's some clothing that looks terrific on young people, but once you get to a certain age, you don't want to be wearing that kind of thing anymore.
Are you making aspersions of my
I am
my
not.
eccentric outfit?
No, I am not. I
right.
think that looks terrific. That's kind of my point in a way. I don't know how you would look in tight jeans, Richard.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Okay.
No.
But young guys look great in classic Ivy clothing, even in suits and things. That slim, natural, soft line of clothing works well, and it works for an older guy as well. So I think those three reasons go a long way towards explaining its longevity. And as far as I can see, I have no idea where the tailored clothing business is going, but if any tailored clothing remains of interest to us in the future, I think it's going to be Ivy League clothing. I really do.
Hear, hear.
What stories do you love that did not make it into your book?
Theater has always been a great second love of mine. And there was a chapter in the book of my appearance in The 7-Year Itch, which I love, but one that didn't appear in the book, that was one of my favorites, was when I appeared in the old show, which most of you probably never heard of, A.B.'s Irish Rose. Well, I played Mr. Levy, and the entire show I had to talk with an accent like that. And who was my co-star? Ivan Boesky, yes, the convicted inside trader who was a member of the City Athletic Club and had to lock next to me. We both had good reviews, but for some reason or other, J Press thought it might not be pertinent to put that in the book. I'm sorry, I wish it were there.
Richard, I have a question for you about a story that you started to tell me.
I hope it was a clean one. It wasn't a dirty joke.
Well, this will be up to you.
All right.
This will be up to you.
All right.
But speaking of Broadway and musicals and so forth, you just told me in passing once that your grandfather hid Cole Porter from the cops. Is that?
Yeah. No, you got it. And we go back to 1914. There was a football game, I think it was the Yale-Princeton game, that was played on Yale Field because they were in the process of building the Yale Bowl at the time. And during the halftime, Cole Porter march on down the field, fighting for Eli, which was also written by Cole Porter, along with Bulldog, bow, wow, Eli. All right.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of the game, which my recollection, I wasn't there, obviously, but Yale won, and Cole Porter and his Deke fraternity brothers were all plastered. And you know what they did? They hijacked a trolley car, the Chapel Street trolley car, and the trolley car went down to downtown New Haven, followed by cops and sirens, and Cole Porter got off at York Street where the Deke house was, and the cops were chasing him, and lo and behold, he ran into J Press, was next door to the Deke house, and my grandfather was outside, and he said, all right, come on, I'll put you in the cellar. So he hid Cole Porter in the basement of J Press, and because of my grandfather, Cole Porter didn't go to jail.
It's such a wonderful story because, everybody thinks of Cole Porter as being this incredibly sophisticated guy, and here he is, a kid.
One addenda, in the show, Anything Goes, the great musical.
Okay.
There was a line in the show that was written in where everybody was going to the Henley Regatta in England on a beautiful ship, and the romantic lead was with a Wall Street stuffy guy, and the lead was trying to go after the Wall Streeter's daughter, threw him a Yale Bulldog doll that he got at J Press, and that was in the show for every revival.
Wonderful.
What is your favorite story in the book?
Mine is the story I tell of our honored fitter, Felix Samuelson. Felix was an Auschwitz survivor, and he was a brilliant tailor. He was a designer, and he was a wonderful man. And when he came to J Press as a displaced person from Germany with his wife, who was also a Holocaust survivor, someone told him that J Press, a tailor, might be looking for a tailor. So Felix didn't speak a word of English, and he went up the elevator. J Press was on the second floor of the northeast corner of Madison and 44th Street, across the street from Brooks Brothers. Felix got off the elevator, and who was there but my grandfather? My grandfather immediately realized he had what they call a greenhorn. And he said in Yiddish, whatever, I don't speak Yiddish, what can I do for you? And Felix said in Yiddish, he introduced himself, Mr. Press, I'm looking for a job. My grandfather threw him a basted, which is an unfinished custom suit, threw it on the marking table, and said, put it back, take it apart and put it back together again. Well, Felix got a hold of that suit, and like a stopwatch, he did it in 2 minutes, as if the SS were watching him, which they did when he tailored suits for the SS at Auschwitz. That's my favorite story, and it's a long story of his career at J Press, where he was beloved by generations of J Press customers.
What is one Ivy style item that you recommend for this summer?
It's a funny thing, because when I came into the shop today, Richard was here, and this is how he was dressed. And it struck me that he stole my thunder about this kind of thing, because I would say exactly what Richard is wearing, a Madras sport jacket. You know, Madras, it goes in and out of fashion, but it never goes away. Particularly with guys like us, you know, who would wear it regardless. But I think it's kind of stylish, again, out there in...
Well, the kids are wearing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they buy it
Exactly.
in mall stores, even though the malls are currently closed because of COVID. But the quality of the Indian Madras is not really the one that I have is made in Madras in India, especially for J Press. And even though it's popular throughout America, at least we have the real thing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what I was going to say about it is it's just a wonderful sport coat, because you can wear it with cotton khakis of any color, with tropical worsted trousers, dress it up a little bit more. And it's 100% cotton, it's lightweight, it's comfortable. Actually, I think yours looks a little too new. It should have a few more wrinkles in it. You have to break it in a little bit more, I think. You know.
Very nice. We bring him here and he criticizes me.
So, but it's no, it's. I think it's a great look, and these days it's kind of a fresh look. You know.
Thank you.
So, that's what I would recommend.
What do you think your book will mean to Ivy style in the future?
Well, I hope it will persevere as what I meant to write it as, which is a historical document that's more than a family memoir, that's more than a merchandise brochure, but it represents the synthesis of the era that many of us now refer to as the heyday of Ivy style. But it goes beyond that. It goes to the lasting commitment that my family, the current family business, has to maintaining the veracity of American style.
I would add to that, Richard, excuse me, is in fact the great historian of this particular style. And this particular style is, in fact, American clothing. That's what differentiates American clothing from other sorts of clothing. And there's a long tradition of it here, and there's a lot of things that are out in the market today that got their start as Ivy League clothing. And I think also, this is something we haven't talked about, that the whole movement of clothing in the 20th century has been about comfort, you know, and in a way, Ivy League clothing was at the start of this because, you know, we've talked now for about 30 or 40 years about Armani deconstructing the suit, and about the Neapolitan unconstructed jackets.
Yeah.
That's all Ivy League. I mean, the infrastructure, the softness of it and so forth, very Ivy League. Also, sportswear is a very Ivy League thing and so forth. So I think there's a great tradition of what Ivy League has given to clothing. And Richard, you're the great historian of it. So
Well, I'd like to add to that. I think that the American style, motivated by the Ivy League, was most pertinent historically during the time of Camelot and John Fitzgerald, JFK, and President Kennedy. Now, this is not political, but his style of dress really captured America. And if you Google JFK and take a look at him with Jackie, his wife, on the beach at Hyannisport with the khaki shorts and rolled up Oxford button-down shirt, playing touch football with his brother Bobby and the whole crew. And that was adopted not only in Ivy League shops a la J Press, but it was adopted throughout in America. And I don't think it's died. I think it's still dormant. Ready
all of the photos of him wearing a Shaggy Dog crew neck.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there a time when leather jackets played a role in Ivy's style?
Yes, I think there was definitely. Now, I'm going to go back to 1944, and the passage of the GI Bill, which gave financial help to young men and women coming out of the service after World War II. And many of them decided that they would open a business or go to college. They would use that money very wisely. And so you got on campus an interesting mix, and I can relate this to my experience on campus in the late 50s and early 60s, because of World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam conflict, that you got ex-soldiers on campus who were mixing traditional Ivy League clothing, such as Harris tweed jackets and things, with their old Army or Air Force khakis. And there were a number of guys who had been in the Air Force, and they were wearing leather flight jackets. The brown, I guess, I don't know whether they were horse skin or what the leather actually was, but it was the short bomber jackets, and those were enormously popular.
Do you prefer a four-in-hand or a Windsor knot on an Oxford cloth button-down dress shirt?
Well, I'm going to throw in because this is hateful.
Well,
I detest the Windsor knot.
Thank you.
It might have been appropriate for the Duke of Windsor, who himself was a ne'er-do-well. but it is a no-go. It is abhorrent to anything resembling the Ivy League look, and I disapprove of it. I realize that with the popularity of spread collar shirts nowadays, I've seen tight Windsor knots that I'm willing to accept, but it's not Ivy, no. Right.
Exactly. Well put, Richard, and I couldn't agree more. A four-in-hand knot only. That's all you ever want to wear.
And the way Bruce is wearing it right now is absolutely de rigueur.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are pin collar shirts ever considered Ivy for formal events?
With black tie, no. It's no pins. No, absolutely not. However, this is not to say that you can't make some changes in black tie. For example, I occasionally wear a pink, classic J Press pink Oxford button-down shirt with a black tie and a dinner jacket. If I feel that the wedding of the formal affair, if it's at a beach club or it's a less formal occasion. And once I remember I was sitting next to a very elegant lady. I said, Mr. Press, that's very, very chic what you're wearing. And I think I heard her husband, who was sitting around the corner, say, he looks like an idiot.
I think it's very chic too.
Thank you.
I think it's very chic. I think it's wonderful. Good for you. I wouldn't wear a pin collar for a formal event, meaning a tuxedo or black tie and tails or whatever. But pin collars have always been traditional for Ivy business wear. Yes. A lot of guys, our friend Paul Winston,
right,
wore.
Paul Winston was the owner of Chip, founded by his father, Sidney Winston, who had been at J Press prior, and they were competitors to J Press. Go ahead.
That's right. No. Thank you, historian. You're absolutely right. Paul Winston used to wear pin collars all the time, and he would just punch a hole. He didn't have eyelets in his holes sewn into his shirts. He just punched the pin right through, and he used to say his shirt collars were all full of holes from punching the pin through. But yeah, it was a very dressy look. I was thinking of somebody else too. The Washington politician Clark Clifford wore pin-collared shirts all the time. I don't think I've ever seen a photo of him that he wasn't wearing a pin-collar shirt.
Going back in time, one of the popular shirts sold at J Press throughout the heyday of the Ivy League was what we called our Madison collar shirt, which was a round collar shirt, which was secured by a pin. And it didn't have a pinhole in it, but you made the pin. But you don't see anyone wearing them nowadays.
No.
Is a pin an acceptable substitute for a tie clip?
For me, yes, but I only tend to wear them with a loosely woven tie, such as a silk knit tie, or I'm wearing a woolen tie today, and as a matter of fact, I simply forgot to wear my pin with it. I usually do wear a pin with it because you don't really hurt wool by pushing a pin through it. So I would say absolutely yes, with the exception that I wouldn't wear it with a fine silk tie because it could damage it, but with loosely woven fabrics, absolutely.
And that's really an irrelevant subject for me since I usually wear both.
Yeah, yes.
What are the staple pieces one should have in their wardrobe?
The blue blazer is perfect, particularly nowadays. I don't mean to hurt J. Press suit sales, but you don't see suits being worn too often nowadays, although post-COVID we'll see if there's a return. But on the other hand, if you have a blazer and you're going to perhaps a more formal occasion, you don't want to be the only one wearing a suit. You wear a blazer, you can wear it with a tie. And if you want to go informal, you wear it with khaki pants. If you want to dress it up, you can wear it with gray flannels. But a blazer is most important. Cotton Oxford button-down shirts are a must. They're appropriate literally anywhere. A lot of times, years back, some people would say to me, well, you're not going to wear a Cotton Oxford button-down shirt to a board meeting, a corporation. And I used to say, baloney. J. Press sells some of the most important corporate executives in America, and you know what? When they go to the boardroom, they wear a Cotton Oxford button-down shirt. What else would be the? I also will tell you, I think cotton drawer underwear. A J. Press, an Ivy Leaguer, doesn't wear jockey shorts. God forbid. He wears cotton Oxford drawer, and I have no more to say. Boxer shorts. Thank you. And with that, I pass the baton to
well, one thing that does occur to me, that if you're going to wear a tie, and I'm a guy who loves ties. I just, no matter what happens, I'm going to be wearing a tie, and there aren't as many around as you used to see. But if you're going to buy a tie, I think a navy silk knit tie is an absolutely good choice, because it seems to go with anything, you know.
I don't mean to argue with my friend, but I'm going to argue with him.
Go ahead.
I disagree with you. I think black knit tie.
Because
if you're going to wear a pink Oxford button-down shirt, if you're going to wear a stripe shirt, the blue could get lost in it, whereas I think the black maintains its singularity. All right, well, we won't have to fight about that.
When you start throwing words like singularity around at me, I may have to cave in. But I still like a navy tie. But anyway, we'll say black or navy tie.
I'll go on.
And I was also thinking of a good pair of brown penny loafers.
Hear, hear.
Because they're comfortable. Again, you can wear them with almost anything. And you know, if you get a good pair, you take care of them, they should do you well for a long time. So I guess those are the two items that I would.
And with loafers, you can wear them with a sport jacket and trouser, with a suit, or you can wear them with Bermuda shorts at the beach with no socks on.
This is
versatile.
This is something that I think is particularly Ivy League, and it's a good symbol of the idea of the movement towards comfort in the 20th century, is that I think guys who wore Ivy League clothes were the first ones to wear a slip-on shoe with a suit. And I think it was a great breakthrough, in a way, in a man's wardrobe, that he could start to find things to make himself comfortable without losing a sense of dignity. See?
And finally, friends, class, buy Threading the Needle. That has a magnificent introduction by my friend and associate, longtime historian and wit, G. Bruce Boyer.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
After the immense social equity that Bruce and I have shared, I want to bid all of you adieu, and I want you all to know that I think it's really appropriate that Bruce and I go out for a couple of gin and tonics. Now, there is a problem that exists. Bruce is going to go out looking as a distinguished gentleman, and I'm going to go out on 44th Street in the middle of New York City dressed as if I'm in Martha's Vineyard, and people are going to say, who is that eccentric Meshuggah? Goodbye, everybody.
Perfect.